Hi, this is Dave. This is my video response to Vinyl Tag 2025 that was started by Pretty Green Vinyl Guy. Got 20 questions, so let's just jump right into it. Question 1, best purchase of 2024, new or old? 2024 was a good vinyl collecting year for me. There's quite a few purchases that I could show here. But I'll go with this 1968 Bobby Gentry album, Delta Sweetie. This was her follow-up album to Ode to Billy Joe. Wasn't very popular at all, so there's just not a lot of copies out there. Especially this mono promo. Never seen a mono copy of this before, so very happy to find this. 50 years later, best album from 1974. I'll go with Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. In my opinion, that's the Genesis magnum opus. Used to listen to a lot of prog back in the 70s, but that's a genre that as I got older, I just stopped listening to, except for this record. I think it still sounds as good today as it did back in 1974. 3, an album that defines a genre. This certainly wasn't the first country rock record, but to me, this is, if I had to pick one that defines a genre, it would be the Flying Burrito Brothers, The Gilded Palace of Sin. So many great songs on here. Christine's Tune, Sin City, one of the best covers of Dark Into the Street, Hot Burrito 1, Hot Burrito 2. Every song on here is like a country rock standard. Question 4, best band from your home country. My home country is pretty big, so I decided to take a little different approach with this and talk about what I think is one of the best bands from the town that I grew up in as a kid in Ohio. And that would be the band Over the Rhine. They formed in the late 80s in Cincinnati, Ohio. This is a husband and wife team out of Cincinnati, Linford Detweiler and Karen Bergquist. They started the band in the very late 80s, kind of late 80s, early 90s. You know, they were kind of considered, I would say, you know, an indie folk, an indie alternative band. And as time went on, I think they became, you know, more acoustic, really more of an Americana sound, really smart lyrics. Karen's voice is just absolutely incredible. They've been making records up to this date. They have over 20 albums. If you haven't heard or listened to Over the Rhine, definitely check this band out. It's an artist you miss dearly. Quite a few, obviously. All of us music lovers are going to miss any of our favorite artists. But for me, I'm going to go with Johnny Cash. This was the only artist that connected the 3 generations of my family. My dad in the post-war era grew up in the country on a farm. So this early Johnny Cash to me really defines his upbringing and his early life. But for my generation, we had the live at Folsom Prison, live at San Quentin. And then for the next generation of my family, that whole generation was introduced to Johnny Cash, you know, in the 90s with the Rick Rubin era of Johnny Cash. So I definitely miss Johnny Cash. Question 6, best live album in your collection. I have a lot of great live albums. Kind of hard to pick the best, but this one is certainly up there toward the top. And this is Jerry Lee Lewis, live at the Star Club in Hamburg, 1964 live set. He is just, this is intense and relentless from the first note to the last. Jerry Lee's possessed on this record. It's really fun just listening to the band, giving it all they got just to keep up with the rhythm and pace on this. Highly recommend Jerry Lee Lewis live at the Star Club if you've never heard it. Your partner just dumped you. What album are you putting on? That first week after I get dumped, I like kind of the angry breakup records because I'm usually pretty pissed off. That goes away after a week and then life goes on and all is good. But for this, I will choose Ben Folds 5, Whatever and Ever Amen. This album has Song for the Dumped, a great angry caustic breakup song. That's perfect for those first few days after you've been dumped. Question 8, best sounding drums on an album. First thing that comes to mind for that question is Dave Brubeck's Time Out. Tom Morello's drums just pop on this record, especially this mono version. Love the drum solo on take 5. Great sounding drums on this. 9, favorite artist who is a member of 2 or more bands. For this, I will choose Robert Smith of The Cure, who was also the guitar player for a short period of time in Susie and the Banshees. He had a lot, he played on this record, plus the live record, Nocturne, I believe. So, Robert Smith. Beatles or Stones? Yes, please. I'll take both. Can't pick one or the other. I think both the Beatles and the Stones are cornerstones for any music lover's vinyl collection. Question 11. You found a bag of weed. What are you going to listen to? I haven't smoked weed in 40 years, so I'm going to transport myself back to 1976 to answer that question. Most important thing on the record is that it's a gatefold cover, so you can deal with all the stems and seeds. I'll choose Little Feat, Waiting for Columbus, great party record. You also got the stoner classic on here, Don't Bogart That Joint. Little Feat, Waiting for Columbus. An album from the 80s you still listen to. I've probably got 250 records from the 80s I still listen to. I love the music of the 80s. But one that lately has been on the turntable, maybe a little bit more than others. Ocean Rain by Echo and the Bunnymen, the record where they kind of fully embraced their neo-psychedelia. Yeah, The Killing Moon, one of my favorite songs of the entire 80s. Seven Seas, Crystal Days, Silver. What a brilliant, brilliant record this is. An artist whose political stance has soured you. For me, this is kind of an obvious one. I imagine this one's going to show up along with Ted Nugent on most people's videos. And that's Van Morrison. I love Van Morrison's music throughout the 70s and into the 80s. I would never stop listening to Van Morrison. But the current version of Van Morrison, he's a little out there. I really don't line up with any of his beliefs, so probably wouldn't be buying any current Van Morrison albums, but I would never stop listening to the brilliant output of the 70s. Show a favorite record label? It's a hard question. I'm going to choose, for my favorite record label, Factory Records, out of the UK. I love the whole ethos of Factory Records, the DIY aspect of it, the fact that they treated their artists well. None of their artists even had to sign a contract. It was all done on a handshake agreement. And I really love the design of all the record covers and inner sleeves from Peter Seville. Gorgeous photography, gorgeous layouts. Factory Records. A run of 3 great singles. I don't collect 7-inches, so I wouldn't have any of these. A 3-single run from the Beach Boys, starting in 1965 with Help Me Rhonda. That was followed up in 1966 by Good Vibrations, one of the greatest singles ever. Followed up again in 1966 by God Only Knows. So that is quite an impressive 1, 2, 3 punch there. An RSD purchase that you actually listen to. This Little Feat makes a second appearance on this video. The album, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Electra Lycanthrope. This is a live broadcast from 1974. I originally had this on a bootleg LP in the 70s. Had it again on a bootleg CD in the 80s. So I was thrilled when this was released. Sounds great, fantastic show. It's a Record Store Day album I still listen to and will continue to listen to it in the future. You can be reincarnated as any artist, dead or alive. Who's it going to be? Man, it took a lot of thought, actually, and there's several. I'm going to go with Joe Strummer from The Clash. I think he made some of the best music of all time from 77 to 82. And I loved his stance. I love how he stood by his principles. Big fan of his music and just big fan of the man. And I promise when I'm reincarnated as Joe Strummer, I'll go back in time and make sure that I do not fire Mick Jones from the band. And I will not make the album cut the crap. You've got my word on that. Question 18. Best 3 lines in a song. Of all the songs I thought about, it seemed like 9 out of every 10 songs that I love the lyrics for Bob Dylan songs. So I'm going to choose from Blood on the Tracks. You're going to make me lonesome when you go. This verse is one that really just paints an incredible picture in my mind every time I hear it. Flowers on the hillside blooming crazy. Crickets talking back and forth in rhyme. Blue river running slow and lazy. I could stay with you forever and never realize the time. God, that's beautiful. It's just gorgeous. An album you never tire of. So I decided to go back to the earliest records that I ever owned. In 1973, I joined the Record Club of America. You know, I sent my penny in for my 5 or 7 records or whatever. Remember back then you had to wait like 4 to 6 weeks to have anything shipped to you. But one of the records in that first batch was Elton John's Honky Chateau. I've listened to this record countless times for the last 50 years. Never once got tired of it. Don't think I ever will get tired of it. Question 20. Share your favorite VC channel. I'm new to this. I've been deciding every day I discover a new great VC channel. If I had to answer the question, it'd probably have to be Mazzy right now, just for the fact that you've got an amazing record collection, such a deep knowledge of music and the music industry. What I love most about his channel too is the San Francisco connection to all of the stories he tells when he talks about his records. I lived there for 30 years, so that I really connect to that. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Pretty Green Vinyl Guy, for putting out this list of 20 great questions.